true statement to make is that we all enjoy catching fish. I know that you would enjoy catching those fish even more if you caught them on lures and rods that you designed and built yourself. That's what we're going to do here. Welcome to the Angler's Workshop. So today we're going to build a 3/8 ounce bladed jig as well as a 1/2 ounce. But first I wanted to show you exactly how I get started with everything and all the components that we're using today. You can easily get at Lure Parts online. We'll give you that information in a little bit. But there's only 5 components to build a bladed jig. That's it. You have the head, you have the blade, you have the skirt, you have the split ring, and you have the lock snap. So the first thing I'm going to start out when I get all my components ready to build is I'm going to look at the jig head. Now in most cases they're going to be sharp coming out of the package, but what if they're not? How can you sharpen the hook the easiest, the quickest way and still maintain that point and keep it from rusting? Well, that's what I'm going to show you. So this would be the jig head that I'm going to use, and this is a 3/8 ounce size. We're going to start with that one first, and I'm going to build a bluegill color bladed jig on that one. And this hook is relatively sharp. I always check it by putting it on my fingernail, but it slides a little bit and I'm just not happy with that. I want to make sure that jig is extremely sharp and ready to go when I take it out of the tackle box. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a diamond file. Okay, and you can get these off of Amazon, all right? And they come in a bunch of different sizes. Every one of them that I've ever tried works. They come in a pack of 5, I think. But what I'm going to do is I don't like using a regular hook sharpener, and there's a reason for that. It's because sometimes when I get in a hurry on a regular hook sharpener, you'll start sharpening that hook, and what you're actually doing is grinding down the point, so it won't last as long for you. So with a diamond file, I'm not going to be grinding down the point. I'm going to be honing it. There's a big difference. It will last longer and give you a sharper point for quicker penetration. So it's real easy to do. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an angle on it, and I'm just going to bring it toward me, and then I'm going to rotate it just like so. I'm going to go back and forth on it. If you notice, I'm not pushing real hard. You don't need to, okay? And I'm going to hone that point, all right? You'll actually be able to feel if there's burrs in that hook. It'll stop a little bit and then continue down. That way you know that you actually got that burr out of there. So that's right there. I'm going to check it now. Yeah, that's what I want. When I touch it to my fingernail and I can feel it start going in, that's the point that I want. Now, to keep that from rusting, this is a tip that you may not know. I'm going to take a permanent marker, and this is just a Sharpie. You can get them anywhere, and I like the large points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color over the area that I just sharpened and make sure that it's thoroughly covered. And the reason I'm doing this, you may not know this, but the chemical inside the Sharpie will keep your hook from rusting. So now I always have a sharp hook. I know that it won't rust in my tackle box. That's the first step. That's exactly what I want, because when the bladed jig is built, it will be ready to go when I need it. Now, Lure Parts Online has about 40,000 SKUs of components that you can build anything that you want, whether it be tying your own flies, building your own bladed jig, spinnerbaits, whatever. But they also have one of the largest selections of components for bladed jigs. And so what I'm going to show you is the 2 types of blades that I build on the most. One is your standard bent blade, like you would find in most bladed jigs or chatterbaits in the store. The other one is it's my favorite blade to build on, and that is a flat blade. Now here's the difference. Your bent blades will give you more of your standard action, straight in line, and those work, absolutely no doubt about that. What I like about the flat blades is what I'm going to show you when you combine certain components is the flat blades will have a tendency to catch the water as it's going through it differently and cause the bait to hunt more. That's what I want. I really like building these blades when they have more of an erratic motion than straight line. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the standard blade works. But one of the best things about building your own baits, You do what you want. And when I can offer the fish something different that chances are a lot of anglers haven't done before, my chances of going bit go up. Remember, all fishing is, all it always has been, and all it always will be is a game of odds. The more odds you put in your favor, the more successful your chances of an angler are. So the next thing we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to set up that blade. Here's another important customization tip for you. I use two sizes of split ring, size 3 and size 4. That makes a difference in the action of your bladed jig. The size 4 will keep your blade more in line. The action will be more in line, just like a standard bladed jig. The size 3 will help your bait to be more erratic and hunt. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a size 3, combine that with that flat blade to make the action on your bladed jig more erratic. Okay, now for this bladed jig, I'm going to use this green pumpkin type blade. I really like colored blades more so than I do gold or silver, mostly because more people use gold or silver blades. So I really like the colored blades more. So I'm going to take the split ring with the split ring pliers, and I'm going to insert it in the bottom hole in that blade. Then I'm going to take my long nose pliers, it's just easier this way, and I'm going to make the circle until it's complete. Now occasionally from time to time the split ring may catch up on the blade and it may bend a little out of shape. That's easy to remedy. Simply just take the long nose pliers and see where the bend is and press in. This way you will keep the full integrity of the split ring and nothing will change. Okay, the next part for the blade is the snap lock. And so I'm going to take the long nose pliers right here and I'm going to open up the snap lock, and I open it up a little bit more and you'll see why in a second. It makes it easier to go through the blade. Now I'm going to take the blade, and you have two holes right here, and I'm going to go in the bottom hole all the time. Once I do that, then I'm going to turn it around. I will push with my thumb to get that as close to the opening on the top hole as I can. And then I am going to slide it through with the pliers. Great, there's that. Now, once I do that, I'm going to turn the blade over, and I am going to take the part of that arm and push it through the snap lock. And right there, now you have about the hardest part to do with a bladed jig. Once that's done, the rest comes together pretty easily. I want to elaborate a little bit more on blade color. Now, you heard me say just a short time ago that I don't use a lot of gold and silver blades, and I don't. Are there times when I do? Yes, there is. But one of the biggest reason that I don't do it all the time is because most store-bought bladed jigs or chatterbaits have that gold or silver blade. And I really like the colored blades. It helps the bait, in my opinion, to look a little bit more natural. I like a dark blade in most situations. So this green pumpkin type one here is one that I choose a lot when I'm using a bluegill type colored bladed jig or just a natural all green pumpkin. A lot of times in really clear water, I'll just go with a straight green pumpkin head, green pumpkin skirt, and green pumpkin blade. My probably top producing bladed jig of all time, where I've caught my biggest bass on, no doubt, and it's probably not going to be a surprise to a lot of you, is just straight black and blue. And on both those, I've had a black blade all the time. For whatever reason, those two colors have worked everywhere across the country for me, black and blue and green pumpkin. So those are two of my favorite options. Not the ones I use all the time, but two that I know are going to be consistent for me. Now, one of the other blades that I will use, this bent black one right here, this has absolutely no shine whatsoever. It's a flat black blade. If I'm throwing a bladed jig continuously, maybe over a couple days, maybe I've been in a 2-day tournament, maybe I'm just going to be on a lake for several days, that's one of the bladed jigs that I'm going to choose from. I'm going to really dull down my colors. I may use a flat black and blue colored skirt, a flat blade, or a flat color blade is what I mean, because that way it just has less shine. And again, a lot of the ones that are store-bought always have those catchy bright colors. They work, there's no doubt about that. Again, one of the best things about customizing, designing your own lures is that you get to choose. So sometimes I'll go a little off from the norm. Why? Because it's something that chances are the fish haven't seen. So with that being said, let's connect this blade to the head of the bladed jig. All right, here you go. So I am going to take the bladed jig or the jig head, and I'm going to connect it to the blade. So again, I'm going to take the split ring pliers. I'm going to open up on the split ring and put it right through the eye on the jig. And then the same thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this around. Okay, so that's for the components right there. That's how easy that is to install those. And now I'm going to show you a little trick to make sure you put your skirt on easier. All right, so I'm going to show you a little trick how to get your skirts on here. It just depends what type of skirt you need. Now, we have hundreds of different skirts there at Lure Parts. And if you're going to use the standard skirt, which is what most people use on jigs, and that'll work just fine, but I'm going to one of the problems is when you put a skirt on something like when you put a skirt on a jig head like this, when you push it up on there, sometimes the strands can become uneven. Well, you go to pull down on them, and they can snap or they can break off. So I'm going to show you an easy way to adjust your skirt by putting it on there so that won't happen. The other solution to that is to use one of these Bass Academy hole-in-one type skirts, where you can see right there, where the hole is already there for you, and it's really easy to slip these on. In my opinion, on a bladed jig, these have a lot better action. They're more fluid in the water. So any of the Bass Academy skirts work really, really good for that, because a lot of them have that option where just that hole. But what I'm going to show you how to do is, even when you're skirting up like a regular jig or even a spinnerbait, and if you're going to use your standard skirt, I'm just going to take some chapstick. And what I'm going to do is I am going to rub that on the collar, right like so, okay? Now, what that's going to do is that it's going to allow that skirt to go on easier. Now, if you were going to use the standard skirt, once you put that on there, you can easily now, because of the lubrication in the chapstick, you can easily pull the strands and adjust them. That way you're not breaking them, and it's a lot easier to make that skirt even. With these Bass Academy skirts, it's really easy this way, because now, once I push that on there, check this out, right over the guard, and boom, it slips right on the top, and that's it. And if you notice with these, they're all even because of the way that is. So now you don't have to cut anything. There's your bluegill colored bladed jig right there. And now we're going to go over some trailers and some options to customize your trailers on your bladed jig. All right, now once your bladed jig is built, now the choice you have is, what trailer are you going to put on the back of it? So earlier in the year, in the spring of the year, I'm going to be looking for a longer trailer, because your longer trailer, when added to the bladed jig, will help keep the bladed jig in line. As the year goes on and the fish's metabolism increases, and I want that bait hunting more, then a short trailer back there will actually help the bait hunt more. So if you put all that together, think about how much you can customize your own bait. When you use a size 4 split ring and a bent blade and a longer trailer, you can easily keep your bait more in line like the traditional bladed jig. Now, if you want the bait to hunt more, then you're going to use a flat blade, a size 3 split ring, and a shorter trailer. Now, be careful with swim baits. As great as they are as trailers, if you use one with too big of a tail or too long with a bigger tail, you can literally rob the blade of its action. So you're kind of defeating the purpose, because that blade is, well, the blade is what gives the bladed jig its action. So just be careful of that. Usually I won't use a swim bait longer than 3.3. Probably my favorite trailer to use on to get the bait to hunt more is the 2.8 size, and this is just the Pro Swimmer. Now here's a bladed jig trailer that I started using more, and big part of the reason that is I had a little bit to help in design of that, and this is the Hitchhiker. Now the Hitchhiker comes in two sizes, a 4.25 and a 4.75. And there's a reason that it was made flat. We wanted it to be able to be used by the angler in two positions, vertical and horizontal, and there are benefits to both. If I want to keep my bladed jig deeper in the water column, because most bladed jigs after you build them have a tendency to ride up. So if you want to keep the bladed jig deeper in the water column, you would put it vertical, just straight up and down. Now, one of the problems with bladed jigs is when you're fishing them around cover, like lay downs with outsticking branches, is they have a tendency to roll over and hang up. Here's the other reason we did this trailer this way. Now when you rig it horizontal, Now you're going to give a flatter surface. You're going to allow the bait to ride higher, like if you were going to be fishing it over the top of shallow weeds. You will also be able to bring it through cover a lot easier because now you have a flatter surface that will be wider than the hook on the bladed jig, and it will help the lure to not hang up as much. So it's multifunction. The cool thing about this trailer as well is that whatever way that you rig it, the tail action is going to be the same. It was designed to mimic the blade. So when you reel it slow, the action will be slow. When you reel it faster, the tail on the back will be faster. So now I'm going to show you a great trick on how to rig it. This is the longer version. I want it just a little bit shorter on the smaller bladed jig. So I'm just going to take the scissors, and we put ridges on here so you can measure specifically. Not only does it move a little bit more water, but now you can measure specifically how you want to cut it. I'm just going to cut the front head part off right here. That's what I'm going to do. That's the size that I want for this bladed jig that I'm building. Now I'm going to take the bladed jig and I'm going to show you a little trick that will help your trailer to last longer on the bait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it down and just rig it like you normally would, about right there. But now I could easily just push this up straight on here and it would work. I'm going to show you how to make it work a little bit better. So what we're going to do is I'm going to push that there. I'm going to turn it toward you. Then I'm going to push up. And then I'm going to turn back. What that does is now it bites into fresh plastic, so your trailer is going to stay up there better. So now the bait is rigged, 3/8 ounce size. It is rigged to fish shallow, over and around cover, and over the top of weeds. All right, and there it is rigged. That's your 3/8 ounce bladed jig with your hitchhiker trailer. Okay, now I'm going to build a bladed jig that I like to throw on cloudy days. Now you may or may not know this, but on cloudy, rainy days, I like throwing white or a combination of maybe like a white and purple or a white and chartreuse. The bottom line is white puts off a better silhouette in the water than a gold or silver blade or any other colored blade for that matter on a cloudy or rainy day. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build you somewhat of a white bladed jig with an all white blade on it. And then this is a really cool combo and one that's been really, really successful for me. It's just one of those baits that, especially if you have a lot of fishing pressure or there's people going down the bank ahead of you on a cloudy, rainy day, a white bladed jig or a white spinner bait for that matter is something you always want to have in your arsenal. So I've already sharpened the hook. I've put the magic marker on there, the Sharpie on there so it won't rust. So now we're going to put the split ring on here. So after I open it up with the split ring pliers, then I'm going to take my long nose pliers and we're just going to move it around like so. And there we go. And again, if it gets a little bent, don't worry about it. Just there it is right there. I bend it with the pliers. There you go. It's perfect. Again, that when you do that, now you have the full integrity of the split ring. Now let's put on the snap lock. We're going to go on the bottom hole, push it through, and then I take my thumb and I push it to the entrance. That makes it a little bit easier, and then you snap it through there like so. Pull it down just to make sure that it comes through. There we go. Turn that over. Now I'm going to take this and lock it right through there. There it is. It's locked. And now, again, the hardest part, and that's it. It's all complete. Now let's attach it to the jig head. And then you slide the jig head that way, and then you turn. And there we go. Now it's completely connected, and now we're going to put on the skirt. All right, so we're going to do the same trick again, and we're going to put that chapstick on there like so. There you go. Now this, without question, is one of my absolute favorite skirt colors of all time. This one is called Purple Magic. It's got like a white ghost color for the white on this pattern, and it fades into purple. This has been an absolutely killer skirt color for me. Another Bass Academy skirt. So you usually just slide it right up on there, then it hits that chapstick, and slides right over the top. And there, as simple as that, man, it's just an awesome, this is one of my absolute favorite ones. Right there is your completed bladed jig. All right, so now on that cloudy, rainy day that we're going to be fishing this bait on, I want the whole full profile. So I'm not going to cut down the hitchhiker at all. And it's got a great little surface area right here that you can start on for the hook to go through. So I'm just going to flip over the bladed jig. I'm going to go right in the center of that hole. I'm going to push it down like so. We're going to do that same trick, okay? I'm going to push this towards you, push up, and pull back, biting in to soft plastic. There you go. Now you've got your bladed jig with your full profile there, nice and straight on there. That is one killer combination. As you can see, the combinations are endless. You're only limited by your own imagination. Everything and anything you need to build better baits, you can find at Lure Parts Online, because all they want you to do is build better baits, catch more fish, and make more memories. And that's what we like doing here. We want to show you how easy it is to build your own lures. And on average, you can build 3 for the price of 1 store-bought one. So until next time, God bless you. I'm Jim Crowley. We'll see you soon on the Angler's Workshop.